Once upon a time, there was an entomologist, a woman who had given her entire life to the study of insects, a subject that many people found repulsive and unsettling, but she never understood that. Well, perhaps in some second-degree empathetic way, she could understand why other people were disgusted by bugs. But not her. She loved them. How they fluttered, how they skittered, how they built, how they grew, how they socialized, how they transformed. Everything about them was like art to her, like poetry, like music. She would go to parties with her friends, and when people found out what she did and inevitably pulled the ugly faces they always did, she would try and explain, proclaim the wonder of these tiny little worlds going on all around us. How even the most common housefly contains secrets and treasures if you're just willing to look close enough. If you're willing to put in the time and the effort to examine the slide on the microscope, the wing on the magnifying glass, each little detail. And no one ever really understood. But that was fine with her. She didn't mind. But then, one night, at some friend's birthday or a mixer, she honestly couldn't remember why she was there or for whom. She met someone who didn't pull an ugly face, who instead pulled a sly smile and started talking about insects himself. And all of a sudden, it was like looking into a mirror. It was like finding a twin. It was like hearing an echo of the music in your own heart. A fellow entomologist. A fellow lover of the tiny, skittering world. And so they talked and talked through the night. And the banter became playful. And then playfully combative. And then oddly competitive. For the more they talked, the more they realized that they were both quite esteemed in their field. How they had never met before this night, they didn't know. But now that they had met someone else who didn't just understand, but understood so keenly, each of them was seized with a desire to outdo the other. And so, as very often happens with this type of friendly, or perhaps less than friendly competition, a bet was made. For at the time, there was a fly that was rumored to exist, but that no one had yet found. A strange, theoretical, mysterious insect with wings like nothing anyone had ever seen. Strange branching patterns, almost like carbon fibers, stronger wings than any fly they had found before. Migratory patterns, like a bird. A lifespan that no one could really measure, as no one had truly found or confirmed the existence of this fly, and so they made a bet. Which one of them would be the first to find this strange new fly? Which of them would be the best bug hunter? They shook hands, clinked their glasses, and left the party that very instant to begin their hunt. Now, the entomologist had largely been one to stay in labs and pore over textbooks, but she was no stranger to first-hand research. She could be a researcher, adventurer if she needed to be, and so Now that she needed to be, she became that. She began to travel strange new biomes, pushing through the thick foliage of foreign jungles, paddling down raging rivers, spelunking the secretest and smallest of caves. And it was in one of those caves that she found something. In an underground cavern, she found a vast pool of water, perfectly still, perfectly clear, like some strange eau de magie from a fairy tale. And at first, just intending to refill her canteen, she went up to the pool and knelt down. But as soon as she looked into the pool, this perfect, still pool, the light hit the surface just right from her torch. And the perfectly clear water became like glass, a perfect mirror, reflecting herself back to herself. But she did not just see herself in this mirror of water, but she saw the cave around her. She saw the stalactites and the moss and the cracks that led to strange hidden crevices. And she also saw something moving, fluttering, flitting, flying. And she froze, afraid to move. She tried to slide her hand very carefully over to her pack to try and get her camera. But as she moved her hand, the fluttering froze, and so she froze and waited for it to start moving again. When finally it did, the only part of her that moved were her eyes, following this small, glittering thing, until finally it got closer to her, and closer, until it lit on her shoulder, and she could see in the mirror of the pond a fly that she had never seen before, a fly she had dreamed to see, but only now had laid eyes on. And the fly was also looking in the water, almost as if it was looking into the reflection at her. And she found herself locked in eye contact with this fly. As small as it was, she could still make out the small, glittering segments of those prismatic eyes. And the more she stared, the more the rest of the cave seemed to vanish around her. The more her vision seemed to segment and fragment, as if she were seeing through the fly's eyes, and as she did, she could see herself, and the fly, and the cave, and everything all at once. And when the torch finally burned out, and the cave went dark again, she was gone. For she had won the bet, but lost herself. The end.